Hello, everybody. This is FLEA Market Fantasy number 17. This is our special Christmas episode, and this is your co-host, Mike Allen. As always, I'm joined by...
Michael Dell of the LCS Hockey Radio Show.
That's right, and this week, we are reviewing yet another comic that I had as a kid, and I read a million times, including every Christmas. This is Daredevil number 253. Merry Christmas, Daredevil by Ann Nocenti and John Romita Jr.
Well, technically, Michael, I believe the title, this is from 1988, but I believe the title is actually Merry Christmas, Kingpin.
You know, I noticed that, yes, yeah. You're right.
On the cover, it has Merry Christmas above the Daredevil title, but inside, it's Merry Christmas, Kingpin. So
this is true. This
technicality. Is true. Now, Michael, the one thing I've learned about you from doing this show, you love the holidays because... every holiday, you're picking special issues.
So for Halloween and Christmas, yes.
Yes. And right before we started recording, we got into a real deep discussion about Boxing Day. But We'll save that. We'll leave that alone.
Philosophical
discussion. And so next week on the show, it's also another one of your picks, and we're doing another Christmas issue?
Absolutely. It's another comic that I read every Christmas when I was a kid, okay?
Because this is interesting because personally, Michael, like I grew up on classic TV as well. I'm a classic TV scholar. I'm looking at my diploma on the wall right now. Okay. But I hated the Christmas episodes.
Why?
Because they're all just terrible. And the worst thing is when you're watching old reruns on TV and a Christmas episode pops up like in the middle of June. That's the worst. You know, I don't want to watch that in June. So I can tolerate them when Christmas is here, but in general, very special Christmas episodes of TV shows suck.
Okay. Let me ask you, what is your opinion of It's a Wonderful Life?
Love it.
Okay.
It's not really a Christmas movie. It's set at Christmas time, but it really has nothing to do with Christmas. You know?
Well, that's a discussion for another time, but I think it's about the spirit of the holidays and of Christmas, I think. But
there's only one acceptable Christmas special, and that's Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas.
I don't even know what the hell that is. What is it?
Emmett Otter, Jim Henson, late 70s, the little live action Christmas special with puppets. And they're otters. I can't believe you don't know Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas.
Never heard of it. Oh my God, I'm looking it up right now. This is a 1977 TV movie.
Yeah, I grew up on it. Like I watched it all. It's the greatest thing ever.
It's possible I saw it, but just didn't know what it was called.
Oh, you would remember if you saw it. But anyway, maybe there's an Emmett Otter comic book we can do. But I'm a little worried about celebrating holidays and Christmas. I don't enjoy it. But I did enjoy this pick this week because you picked Daredevil.
Yes. And Daredevil, this was right when I was reading Daredevil as a kid. I missed Frank Miller as a kid, so this is when I started reading Daredevil. So
I'm the same with you. Daredevil's my favorite guy.
All right.
And this is the first time we're actually repeating a title on the show because episode 3 of this podcast, we did a Daredevil that Frank Miller drew but did not write. So I can't remember the first issue of Daredevil I purchased, but it was during this run.
Okay.
Because I missed the Frank Miller stuff too. Like Born Again was the big Born Again series Frank Miller did. It was from like 227 to 233.
Right.
So what is this, 253? So we're 20 issues after that.
Right.
But this I can't remember. I'm trying to think what the first book I would have purchased. I don't know. But anyway, I had this entire run with Ann Nocenti and John Romita Jr. And so I loved it very much.
Yes,
when I was a kid.
Me too, absolutely.
Yeah.
There's such a Innocenti or Innocenti, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, but
Nocenti.
Yeah. You sure?
Yeah, because I've been watching a lot of interviews with her,
and she says Nocenti?
Yeah, that's how they always introduce her.
Okay. So well, I'll concede. But here's the thing: is that some people don't like her writing. I think it's too preachy. I mean, I don't think her dialogue is terribly realistic, but I think that she's always got something to say, and she doesn't come from a comic book background at all. Like when she got into the industry, as far as I know, she had zero background in comics, and I think that's good because she doesn't write like anyone else. She doesn't write like the typical Marvel writer. I think that's what I like about her, you know?
Yeah, we'll get into her stuff later, but yeah, that's exactly right.
Right.
She did not even know anything about superheroes until she started working at Marvel.
Right.
Yeah. All right, well, let's get into the plot here, Michael.
Sure.
Daredevil 253, 1988. Where does it open up with this, Michael?
So it opens up with this gang of hoodlums terrorizing the streets.
There's only two of them. So is that a gang?
Well, arguably, a pair of hoodlums.
Maybe.
A pair of hoodlums, yeah.
A duo.
Tearing up the streets here in New York, causing mayhem, knocking things over. And the first thing that happens is they're noticed by a kid who's actually a recurring character in the book called 8-Ball. And he notices... Yeah, I love 8-Ball. I always remember 8-Ball.
Yeah, I want to punch 8-Ball in the jeans.
Really? Oh, I was in the jeans. I always liked 8-Ball. So as they're going by and knocking over garbage cans and causing mayhem, 8-Ball notices them. And he's sort of admiring them because they're so fearless and everyone's scared of them, blah, blah, blah. And so these guys come in and they mug this, what are they called? Like a Santa Claus,
Yeah, Salvation Army Santa.
Right, Salvation Army Santa. And then another guy comes in and tries to intervene, but they knock him out and then they take off. But this 8-Ball kid is like, and it's funny because it's some pretty awkward dialogue, but he's like, they ain't afraid of nothing. Guess I better help this hurt guy.
Yes.
Wish I could ride with him, but nobody pushes them around. Wonder if this guy's dead. It's almost like Gollum.
Yeah.
He's got two different personalities, and they're switching back and forth. But anyway, it's cool. Yeah, it's not again, not realistic, but it gets the point across.
And then, Michael, let me explain who those hoodlums are, by the way, the two guys riding around the car causing trouble. Their name, they're called the Wild Boys.
Yes.
The Wild Boys. And this is their first appearance. And you got Spit is one of them.
Sorry. It's a great name.
Spit and Jet are their names.
I love it.
Now, I'm trying to remember which is which. Do you remember which is Spit and which is Jet?
Spit is the darker skinned guy, and Jet is the like pasty faced guy with the long hair.
Yes, Spit. I'm so confused. Wait. Who did you say Jet is? Oh wait, yeah, the darker skinned guy is
Spit.
Spit. Okay.
Yeah.
So Jet kind of looks jaundice. I'm concerned for his liver health.
Yes.
He looks yellow, and he's got a lot of crazy hair and baggy pants.
Yeah, he's really skinny.
But this is the first appearance of the Wild Boys. Are you familiar? Well, obviously you're familiar with them if you read this run.
Yeah.
They pop up a couple other times later on.
I am currently rereading this run, but I haven't got past this issue. So,
well, a little bit later from this, my beloved Typhoid Mary.
Oh yes.
She gathers up a bunch of his villains, and they all attack Daredevil and beat him down. And the Wild Boys are in that group.
Nice.
But yeah, they're just normal dudes.
Right.
They're not like superheroes or anything. They're just dudes. So I don't know. Not a huge fan of the Wild Boys. You know. What are you gonna do?
But you know, this is an interesting time at Marvel because not only like was Daredevil kind of becoming more realistic, but even in the X-Men, the villains at the X-Men at this time were not like typical supervillains. It was more like the Marauders and the Reavers, right? And they kind of had more realistic names and like they were less super villainy. Like they didn't have costumes and capes and stuff like that. So I think that was just the trend at the time.
Oh, well, I don't know. The Marauders were kind of decked out and.
Maybe the Marauders not, but the Reavers. Remember the Reavers? Weren't they all kind of half cyborg, half?
Yeah, they're half robot.
Half robot, right?
Yeah, but they're like punk rock robots from
Australia.
I
think that was kind of the style of the day.
Also, you mentioned 8-Ball.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, Michael, do you know where there's also a young girl in this book who's featured prominently named Darla?
Yes.
Now, do you know where they first premiered, 8-Ball and Darla?
Well, I'm assuming it was in Daredevil, or was it not in Daredevil?
You're assuming incorrectly.
Really?
They belong to a pack of street boarders called the Fat Boys.
Yes.
They're all like, how old are these kids? Like 9, 10?
Yeah, around that, yeah.
Yeah, they're little kids. They actually premiered in Long Shot, issue number 4, in 1985.
You know what? I read that a couple years ago, and I think I remember coming across that, but I forgot. Yeah.
Yes, Darla was more prominent in that. I only read like one issue of Longshot.
Okay.
I only had one of them. So I should go back and read it again. But Darla, I guess, falls in love kind of with Longshot. Like she loves him.
Okay.
But then I don't know. It's an involved story. Like as a little kid, loves like a TV star. You know what I mean? Like,
sure.
That's kind of. So their first appearance in Daredevil is issue 238. 238. Okay. So look at that. 15 issues before this. Now, I'm not a fan of kids.
Okay. You know? I have no issue with kids, so.
I can watch your kids fall off bikes all day. I don't care. That's a Letterkenny quote. Do you watch Letterkenny, Michael?
No, I don't. Nope.
You call yourself a Canadian.
You'll find there's a lot of things I do that are un-Canadian.
Yeah, anyway. All right. So yeah, kids are the worst. So that would be my problem with this issue is it's very kid-centric with 8-Ball and Darla. But anyway.
That's one of my favorite things about it. But anyway. See, again, because I just love the supporting cast that Ando Senti introduces. I just think they're all so cool. And, you know, yeah. and we'll get to the status quo later, like the supporting cast. But yeah, but you hate kids, so yeah.
Yes, I hate kids, and I hate the supporting cast.
Okay.
But all right. So where'd we leave off? The kid thought the one guy was dead, that Jet elbowed in the face or Spit elbowed in the face. I don't know. So then what happens, Michael?
So then we cut over to Daredevil, kind of watching things as transpire. He's standing at the top of this building, and then he jumps down and has a conversation with 8-Ball about this guy, and he's basically trying to help the guy, and he can tell from the conversation that 8-Ball secretly admires these wild boys. And so
yeah. He heard him talk. Plus, he can also tell like his heart rate. You know, gets excited when he's talking about him. You know, so yeah.
Right, and he's like, "So you think they were pretty cool, huh?" And 8-Ball's like, "Well, no, you'd like to run with them, huh?" I just meant, how did he know? How does he see into my head? See what I'm thinking? Because he doesn't know that he has a radar sense and he can hear heartbeat and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, all the senses. We should also mention 8-Ball got his name. He was originally called Butch, and
really?
Then he got a helmet with an 8-ball, like a billiard ball on it. It's not because he likes to do heroin.
Okay.
That is not true.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
You know, because I didn't even have to look this up, obviously, where these two names, Butch and Darla, came from.
It sounds like the Little Rascals or something.
Exactly, yeah, our gang, absolutely. That's what they have to be named after them. Like, as soon as I saw Darla, I'm like, oh, yeah, that's our gang for sure.
So anyway. He also has an 8-ball jacket.
Right.
So this kid, he's something. And we should mention these kids are kind of like, they're not orphans necessarily, but they come from troubled homes.
Oh, yeah. They actually mention that. Like, they kind of make fun of each other. Like, oh, your dad's a junkie, your mom's a drunk. So, yeah, unfortunately, these come from tough families and tough neighborhoods, right?
So these little kids hang out together on the streets in New York
right.
with their skateboards and stuff.
Right.
Although it is nice to know that even though they come from such dire circumstances and they're kind of ne'er-do-wells, that they wear their knee pads, elbow pads, and helmets when they skate.
It is nice, yeah.
Yeah. It's a good message for the kids.
Yeah.
So.
It's also funny because John Romita Jr., God love him, but he's not the greatest at drawing kids, and so they don't look quite in proportion when they're standing there. They look almost like midgets, you know what I mean? But I won't go any further with that. But yeah, they look kind of odd. But anyway, I don't know if that's the correct term. Maybe little person is the correct term. But anyway,
is the correct term.
Okay, so anyway,
cancel Mike L.
Yeah, there you go. Cancel Mike L. And so anyway, so then 8-Ball goes back to hang out with Ralph. I forgot about Ralph and Darla. And so right away he starts, making fun of Darla and hitting Darla, and then she's talking about his skateboard and how much she likes it, and he kind of knocks her off, and then they kind of fight a little bit back and forth and make fun of each other, and then they take off and kind of leave her in the dust.
But talk about his really cool skateboard, Mike. What's the design of his skateboard?
It's got it's got a guitar on it with like angel wings behind it.
Yes.
Pretty
and
cool.
It says 8-Ball underneath.
Right.
It.
It's pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, I don't know about you. I was never into skateboarding. Were you?
No, I couldn't even stand up on one. So.
Exactly. Yeah, me too. I had friends that could do like the tricks and all that. I don't remember what they were called, but whatever. They were into that. I wasn't. So anyway, so then there's a really cool scene where there's a cop at the scene where this guy has been mugged. And he says to him, he's like, it'd be Christmas Eve and all. Most of the force have families, so we're a little short on manpower tonight. Do you think you could? And Daredevil says, no problem, officer. Consider them history. So he's talking about the Wild Boys.
Yeah, and let me tell you something. I'm a son. My father was a police officer.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and let me tell you from experience, they don't give a fuck about their families.
Yeah.
No, I don't mean the cops. I mean, my dad cared about his family, obviously. I mean the people that make their schedules. They don't care. It's not like, oh, you have family? You don't have to work tonight. No, that's not how it works. Especially in New York City. That's not how it's going to work.
Yeah.
The higher ups do not care if the police officers have families. But anyway.
Stretching. Yeah, absolutely. Taking some artistic license there. So anyway, so then, so 8-Ball goes off with Ralph. They take off, and then he's still kind of thinking to himself, there's that look again. He knows what I've been thinking. Like he knows when I've been bad. Well, I don't care. He thinks I'm so bad, I might as well be really bad. Uh-oh, right?
Yeah.
What were we going to say?
Oh, no, I just said look out.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then we cut back to Daredevil. And this is where it gets really cool because we should establish that at this point, as we said earlier, this is after Born Again. And so Matt Murdock no longer has his license to practice law, so he's not a lawyer. So he's kind of running this, not like, it's like not a soup kitchen, but it's like a
community center maybe? Or?
Yeah. Yeah, for people who are drug addicts and on the street and just, low income. And so he goes back to hang out with them. And in the past few issues, he's been, because I've been reading them, he's been consulting people with like legal matters and stuff like that. And so someone has told him he's not allowed to do that anymore and he's going to be charged and blah, blah, blah. So, they're kind of worried it's going to get shut down. But anyway, so this is basically just them all hanging out and, talking about Christmas and it kind of goes from there later. But yeah, for now, we're just kind of introduced to everybody in the status quo. He's talking with, what's her name? Karen Page there.
Yeah, his girlfriend, Karen Page.
Yeah, who's also helping out with this stuff.
And Michael, here's something you probably don't recognize as a Canadian. Okay. But in the scene where he walks in with a Christmas tree and they're all excited and there's a shot, they show a fella standing there in it looks like a football jersey with a collar. And it's bright yellow, and it says Taylor and 56 on the back. Now, Mike, are you aware of a fellow named Lawrence Taylor?
Actually, not. No.
All right. He's probably the greatest defensive player ever in the history of American football.
Really?
And, and he was very popular in New York City. Well, this is 88, so yeah, he was still around there. And they won a Super Bowl in 86. And his number was 56. So they're clearly indicating that this is a Lawrence Taylor shirt, but it's bright yellow. And that is not really.
Oh, so that's incorrect. Okay.
Yes, that is incorrect. They're blue, red, and white. So yeah.
Someone didn't tell the colorist.
Well, I think they didn't want to make it Lawrence Taylor because they'd get sued or something. But yet it's clearly Lawrence Taylor.
Sure.
So
yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, just a little interesting note.
I just thought it was completely random. I never would have noticed that.
Yeah, it's so bizarre. Like, why go out of your way to make it? And they even have giants on the front.
I know. Yeah, I just noticed that. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, maybe the color is just totally screwed up. Made it bright yellow for some reason. I don't know. Anyway.
So then we cut over to the Kingpin, and we have an interesting scene. First of all, we'll talk about the art later, but I love the way John Romita Jr. draws the Kingpin.
I was going to say the exact same thing. I was just going to say I love how he does the Kingpin. Yeah, because he's got like his body is enormous. His arms and legs are enormous, and his head's kind of small.
Right.
And it's great.
Like John Romita Jr. is so good at drawing bulky characters, and this is like obviously one of the bulkiest, right?
Because if you go back in the days of like John Buscema and how they used to draw the Kingpin, and even John Romita Sr., they would have him with an enormous head and like a squat body.
Right.
Like even when they tell you like the how to draw comics the Marvel way, the John Buscema instructional on how to draw comics, they use the Kingpin as an example of how when you can because the average superhero figure is supposed to be like 8.5 heads tall for a superhero.
Right.
And the Kingpin, they say he's like 5 heads tall. His head's bigger,
Okay.
So, but here with Ramita, the head is small, but the body is just like so bloated. It's awesome.
I love it. And I remember reading somewhere that some writer tried to establish that the Kingpin was all muscle. It was not fat.
Yeah.
But you can clearly see here, he's got this gigantic beer belly, right?
So but it's muscle, Mike.
Yeah, okay.
When you have really strong abs, it forces the belly out. So
there's only one person I know who's like that, and that's the Iron Sheik. I could never figure him out, eh?
That's exactly right, yeah.
He had a giant beer belly, but apparently it was muscle there, so I don't know what was going on.
Yeah. And also nowadays, it's called HGH gut. When you get the big abs, but it's forced out. HGH.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Human growth hormone.
Oh.
If you take the HGH, sometimes you can get that look as well.
Well, I'm taking the HDH. I'm not taking the HDH, but I still have a massive gut, so I don't know what's going on. But anyway. All right. Okay.
And we should also mention the Kingpin's working out, and he's just in a little pair of shorts, his slippers.
Yes, that's right.
A weightlifting belt and weightlifting gloves, but otherwise wearing nothing. Oh, he also has like a gold chain around his neck too, which is nice.
That's true. And we have some very, here's the thing. I've read Frank Miller, most of his run. I know how the Kingpin talks when he's written by Daredevil, but when he's written by Frank Miller. This is different. He's clearly completely different here. Like, I love Innocenti, but Kingpin here is not his calm, cool self. Do you agree?
Yeah, he's a little angry.
To me, he's more like Scrooge, right? Like, I don't want to like Scrooge from A Christmas Carol or whatever it's called. Like,
I could see that.
Yeah, he's just like the bad temper and everything. It just doesn't seem like the way the Kingpin would act. But whatever, every writer's different, so that's fine.
In fairness, though, he is during the Miller run, he was kind of in control, and then his plan to end Daredevil failed, so he got pissed. So it could be the progression of the character that he's having trouble controlling his temper now because his big scheme, the Born Again arc, failed. So now he's still trying to figure out what's going on here, how he can stop Daredevil. And Michael, they use some very blatant symbolism in this scene for how Daredevil is. So what do they do here?
So as Kingpin is working out, he's got this fly buzzing around him, and at first he's kind of just annoyed, but then he swings one of his barbells. Then he swings the entire what is that called? Like, well, first it's the dumbbell, then it's the barbell, right? Then he hits. Which one's the long one?
That would be the barbell.
Okay, so first it's the dumbbell, which is the short one, right?
And we should mention these dumbbells are loaded with weight.
Yes, like hundreds. I don't know how much.
There's probably 150 pounds on these dumbbells, and he's swinging around. Yeah.
So yeah, he's swinging, and then he ends up smashing the glass. And then he ends up smashing what is he called? Like the personal trainer or whatever he is. Then smashing the bench, and then it's funny because then the guy actually, and this is where Innocenti's unsubtle writing comes in, where he actually says, where's the line? He says, you can't hit a fly with a barbell. And he's like, that's it. That's the secret. So, I mean, again, right on the nose, right? Which is fine. Yeah. Again, the kid in love.
Yeah, it's tough. We're looking at these as grown adult humans, shut-ins in our 40s.
Yeah, shut-ins.
It's but we've got to remember, these are children's picture books, Yeah.
So I will not agree that just because it's got pictures that it's meant for kids, but these are clearly meant for kids. There's no doubt.
Yeah, these are directed at a young audience. And again, this is 1988.
Right. So I can definitely forget.
To put that time in perspective, Watchmen came out in 86, right?
Yeah.
So, and that really brought in like a darker, more profound kind of storytelling for comic books. So we're still just getting in that evolution. When did The Dark Knight come in? What year was that? Was that 86 or
85, 86? Yep.
Yeah. So we're still in the early stages of that kind of comic book film. So,
and this was also, for the time, it was more adult, right? Like, I'm sure you agree. Like, from reading other comics at that time, didn't you feel like Daredevil was kind of a step up, like by Innocenti?
Yeah, because she was talking about social issues,
Mm-hmm.
and no other books really were.
Right.
To this extent, at least. But anyway.
Yeah. So basically, so we know he's pissed, and he's got an idea. So now we cut back over to the Wild Boys, Spit and Jet, and they're stealing like stereos and other trinkets from the store, loading it into the car, and then Daredevil intervenes and gets into fisticuffs with them. And it's a really cool scene where they... What's that?
Well, it's not really... He doesn't really punch anybody.
That's what's funny. No, I was just going to say that you're expecting it, but then they pull a gun and a knife, and then he just disarms them with his billy club. And I love this part here where they throw a beer bottle at him, but he just moves out of the way, and it passes by him, and he doesn't even have an expression, eh?
He just like bends his head to the side. He doesn't dodge out of the way.
I love it. And then he basically just chokes them out, and then the scene ends with him saying, "I could kill you, but I also know how to apply just enough pressure to have you slowly fade out with the image of my face burned into your skulls. Merry Christmas, scum." I love it.
Yeah, he grabs each of them in one hand on each of their throats, and it kind of shows him lifting them off the ground,
right?
Which is impossible.
Well, it's true. He has no superpowers, but he's really strong. But
he's just an average dude. I mean, a strong average dude, but still an average dude. You're not picking up a 200-pound man with one hand by the throat and each arm. But whatever. But I love the art here. I think Romita's doing great stuff here, and especially there's the one scene where the Wild Boys are in the foreground and they turn around to see Daredevil on the back of the car, and he's hunched over, all in shadow, kind of. That's a great shot. Yeah. And I like the way he's using the the lights, the headlights, and the reflections of the lights. Do you see what I'm talking about?
It's
when he first jumps on the hood of the car.
Okay.
There's a panel that says "Womp." See all the lights in the background?
Yes.
Interesting. All flash bulbs kind of going off or something. I don't know.
Well, you know what? There's actually a lot of that in this issue where the backgrounds are kind of they seem abstract, but you're right. I think they're actually just. It's like if you were to have a camera and the lights in the background were to be blurry, that's what they look like, right?
Yeah, reflecting off of shiny objects. But I love it. It's great.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, me too. So then basically, what's his name? 8-Ball comes back in, and then they kind of continue so then 8-Ball, what he wants to do is he's like, hey, well, he figures I can take the stuff. So Daredevil's like, that's so good.
Yeah, we should mention that the Wild Boys had the back of their car filled up with stolen goods.
Right. The stuff that they had from the store, as well as other places, we assume. So they've got all these goodies. And 8-Ball just wants to take it. He's like, huh? It's loot. It's nobody's. Give it back. You're nuts. Yeah. And so Daredevil is lecturing him, and 8-Ball is all pissed off. And then Daredevil says, this is important. He says, if you spend your days giving to people whenever you can, some of that goodness may float back your way just when you need it most. You get what you give. Try it sometime. You're crazy. Keep your stinking radio and your funny talk. Because that's the way kids talked in 1988 in New York.
Yeah, your funny talk.
Yeah.
Keep your funny talk.
So then Daredevil gathers up all the radios and all the trinkets, and then the owners of the shops, who all happen to be standing together on the street,
yes,
they come over, and in a heartwarming Christmas moment, they tell him that, you know what, Daredevil, I speak for every one of us. We'd like to give all that merchandise to you. Merry Christmas, Daredevil. And then Daredevil says, thank you. I know just what to do with it, right? And we readers know as well, right? But we'll get to that in a few minutes. Okay? Then we come to my favorite scene in the whole book, okay, where 8-Ball then runs into Darla. And they start chatting it up and talking and, kind of making fun of each other. But then what happens? Darla notices there's some dirt on 8-Ball's face. So he's like, hey, dirt on your face. Let me. Oh, didn't mean to touch you. 8-Ball, I'd like Darla. And then the next page, he pulls her helmet over her head and then kicks the skateboard and she kind of falls over and then he's running away. And he's like, 8-Ball, why'd you do that? Why do you always have to? Wait, you forgot your skateboard. No, I didn't. Huh? And it says on it, Xmas to Darla. For me. It's for me. And she's got tears coming out of her eyes. And guess who also had tears coming out of her eyes? Okay.
Little Michael was weeping like a child.
You got it. I love it.
Yeah, it's obviously Darla and April are falling in love, but they're too little yet to know what that means or what to do. So he just pulls the helmet on her head, yeah, yeah, and then he gives her a skateboard. But Mike L, this is very similar to things that happen in Emmett Otter's Jugman Christmas. So
is it really?
yes, you will be weeping uncontrollably in Emmett Otter.
Yeah. All right. And then,
but I like at the first panel of this scene, we see 8-Ball sitting on a stoop, and he's looking at his skateboard, and he says, "Darn, man, I got the greatest skateboard, the thrashing best."
Yeah.
Oh, but if you look closely, he's you can see him painting on it with the can of spray paint. So he's putting on the Xmas to Darla thing. So that's nice. And then we cut to Darla, and she's standing in front of a skateboard shop, and she's admiring all the skateboards. And Michael, a key point we got to mention, she says that if I had a skateboard like 8-Ball's, I could do all kind of flips and stuff. And she's considering just stealing one, you know?
Okay, okay.
I'm pretty sure she said, yeah, she's like, I'm going to get one. I'm going to steal me one. And then 8-Ball says, watch out. You get what you give.
Yes.
So he's quoting Daredevil.
Exactly. So he learned his lesson.
Yep.
I love it.
And then he gives her the skateboard.
Right.
So now we're back to the Kingpin, though, Michael.
Right. And this is another scene of containing unsubtle dialogue, but that's okay. Because, so basically, so Kingpin's got his buddy. This is not the arranger. I'm not sure what his name is, but it doesn't matter. But he's like, where's everyone? Home with their family, sir. It's Christmas Eve. Don't mention that word again. It's meaningless. You know, and then it kind of goes on from there. And so they're kind of talking back and forth. And then basically, yeah, there's a subplot here with like some land that someone wants to buy, and they're trying to bully someone into selling their land. And then basically, he's like, Murdoch. So he's still trying to think of how he's going to find, you know, because Born Again failed, and so he's trying to cook up something else to beat him, right? So yep. we cut back to the whatever this.
Oh, Michael, one other important thing out of that scene, that fly is still buzzing around, and it lands.
Right, and he kills the fly.
Yeah, he smashes the fly. So
right.
Look out, Murdoch.
Yeah.
Look out.
I also love how instead of just coloring the sky completely black, John Romita Jr. actually took the time to draw black lines in the sky to give it like a gradation, you know? That's really cool.
That is interesting.
I love it. I just love it because he doesn't make it's not realistic. It's just completely, I guess you could say, like impressionistic, you know? I just really like it. We'll talk about that later. Yeah. So anyway, so now Matt Murdock, now he goes back to his, whatever this is, soup kitchen type thing. And now he's got Christmas presents for everybody. So one of the things so everyone's happy to see him. So the first thing he does is he gives for you 8-Ball, and you can see that it's a skateboard. And 8-Ball says, "How did you know?" Because of course, right? Daredevil knows everything, right? So yeah. So then, you know, he's passing around the gifts to the different people, and these are all characters that I think they've been in the last few issues. But sorry, what were you saying?
They're kind of recurring characters in this community center. But notice, Michael, he gives 8-Ball a skateboard because 8-Ball gave, so now he gets back.
Good point. See?
He gave his skateboard, now he gets one back. And remember, Daredevil told him, if you give to others, you'll get back when you need it the most. Now he needs a skateboard, bang, he gets a skateboard.
I love it. I love it. There's Innocenti's literary background, right?
And then you're going through the gifts. They're kind of weird. Like he gives this one guy a football, like he looks like a homeless guy. And then I'm assuming this one lady is a prostitute, and she gets like a transformer.
And it's a Zoid. It's actually a Zoid. Do you remember Zoids?
No.
Zoids were... I don't remember if you assembled them, but I had one Zoid. Basically, if you can imagine... it's hard to explain, but they came in pieces, I think, and you had to put them all together. But then when you put it together, you would wind it up, and then they could walk on their own.
Oh, so like... Because when she said Zoid here, I thought it was just an exclamation, like...
no.
Zoinks or something like that, jinky, you know, like Scooby-Doo kind of thing.
You know what's funny? Maybe that is an old expression, there's a tiny possibility that that's what she meant, but considering it's a robot, it must be a Zoid, right? I think.
Yeah, she literally says Zoid, and if you're saying Zoid, but does Marvel have like a licensing deal with them or something?
They had a comic book that pretty sure it's slotted in to be reviewed on Flea Market Fantasy. So, oh yes.
Oh no. Son of a. Why do I let you pick issues? I don't understand.
There you go. You did it to yourself.
And then there's another guy who gets a blender, and then another guy gets a little Pac-Man video game. So it's a Merry Christmas for everybody.
I got to point out quickly, you know that little Pac-Man thing? I had one just like it. It was Donkey Kong Jr., I think. But you know those ones where it was almost like, what's that called? Not LED, but like, you know, like a calculator. You can see, the graphics are there. They're just not lit up. Well, that was what my Donkey Kong was like. You would just hit the little joystick and it would just light up the different characters and it looked like it was moving, you know? Oh, so much fun. Anyway. So then basically we cut outside. So this is a very weird issue, but we cut outside and now Kingpin is sitting in his like limousine right outside this thing, which outside there's a sign. It says drug hotline, free legal aid, Merry Christmas, right? And so this is Matt Murdock's like little home thing for like, sorry, go ahead.
And dig how they're doing the snow. It's like
it's almost like whiteout.
Yeah, like thick swipes of whiteout. You know, it's like not just specks. It's like long, but it looks cool.
Yes, it's very cool. Yeah, so basically it looks like the art was already drawn and they went over top of this with like whiteout or whatever it is, right?
Yeah,
so it's really cool. Yeah. And so basically, you know, Kingpin is outside of this thing and he's like complaining. He's like junkies, bums, snotty kids, prostitutes, working class stiffs. That's what Murdock calls a family. And so he's basically just contemplating. He doesn't understand. I did everything I could to just destroy him. But why? Why is he still happy? Why is he still, you know, pushing on? Like, what's wrong? And so basically he's kind of just thinking to himself, what else do I have to do? What else do I have to do? And then he gets to the conclusion. He's like, that's it. There's only one way to destroy a man like Matt Murdock. Get him where it hurts. Get him right through the heart. But we don't know what that means yet, right? So that's foreshadowing of the story to come.
Well, I know what it means.
Oh, you know what it means, right? I'm assuming it means Typhoid Mary.
Well, I think it means he's going after the community center. He's gonna ruin those things, right?
Oh, see, I was gonna say I thought it meant because I don't know how Typhoid Mary connects in, but I thought maybe it meant that Typhoid Mary was an agent for Kingpin and he was gonna send her in as like a woman to kind of like get to him that way, but I don't know.
Yeah, you know what? I can't remember how it all plays out, but I mean that would make sense too. But I'm assuming just from this issue, like he's talking about ruining that community center.
Sure.
But,
well, I guess we'll find out because I'm going to keep reading after this, so we'll see.
Yeah, I might too, actually, just to relive the old days.
Sure. And I just got to point out, and I love this last little 3-panel sequence because then we cut to the inside point of view of the Kingpin with this beggar who comes up to the window and is like, "Mary, Mary, mister, got a buck?" And then burp, "Hey, man, it's Christmas for heaven's sake. A quarter? Hey, buddy, a dime." And it just says end. Oh, I love it.
Kingpin's not giving him anything. I'd also like to point out, Michael, if you look carefully in the back of Kingpin's limousine, his big stretch limousine, there's a box of Kleenex on the back of the seat.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
It's an interesting detail to put there.
It just seems weird that a millionaire guy would have a box of Kleenex. Now, either he has sinus troubles or to do something else in the back of that limousine, which is...
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, so yeah, that's Merry Christmas Daredevil, a.k.a. Merry Christmas Kingpin.
Yeah, how about that? So, all right, the writer, Anna Senti, we mentioned many times. Mm-hmm. She was born in 1957. She was an editor on various titles, including Uncanny X-Men, New Mutants, The Defenders, and The Incredible Hulk, which I did not realize. She did not write the New Mutants. She wrote one issue for the New Mutants, like a special edition issue, but she did not. But she was the editor on the New Mutants.
Okay.
If you would have asked me, did she write? I'm like, oh yeah, she wrote the New Mutants.
No, I knew she was. Yeah, I knew she was the editor of that because she was the one that fired Sal Buscema and hired Bill Sienkiewicz.
Oh yeah, she loved Bill Sienkiewicz. She loved his art.
Yeah, understandably so.
A lot of her creations, her most notable creations, Longshot, who we mentioned, who was an X-Men for a while. Mojo, who was Longshot's villain. He was like the big green blob guy. He was in a chair.
Right.
He controlled another dimension through TV. Like he just had the whole society addicted to television shows. Mm-hmm. So yeah. And Spiral, the 6-armed lady who joined the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants.
Right.
But her greatest creation is Typhoid Mary.
Yeah.
Oh, I love Typhoid Mary so much. So much.
Now, could I ask you a question before you continue? I don't usually like to comment on a creator's appearance, but have you ever seen a picture of Innocenti?
Yes.
Okay, because she's quite attractive, especially back in the
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah.
I did some homework and Googled a few pictures, and I just sent the best ones to you. But she is
thank you
quite attractive. Yes.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Innocenti.
Yeah, absolutely.
As a kid, the only comic she read was Dick Tracy and Pogo.
Really?
There's the only comic she had. And then when she got older, she read some Robert Crumb. Okay. But she didn't discover the superhero genre until she answered an ad in the Village Voice and got a gig at Marvel. The ad was for editorial writing help, and it didn't say what it was for. And when she called, the lady on the phone wouldn't tell her what it was for. She just said, "Show up, and you'll talk about it there."
Right, like just get over here, yeah.
Yeah. So when she hung up, she's like, "Oh well, this is probably porn, but whatever."
Yeah.
And she said when she showed up at the office, she saw they had cutouts of Captain America and Spider-Man, and she goes, "Oh, all right, I know what this is." But I think it's pretty funny that they wouldn't even tell people it's in comics.
Right.
So her first writing gig was a 6-page story in Bizarre Adventures number 32 in 1982. And her first regular writing job was on Spider-Woman in December of 1982. She started on issue 47, but there's a catch, Michael. When they hired her for the gig, they said, we're ending the title at issue 50.
Right.
So she only got to do 4 issues, but they brought her in to do it. And at the end, she killed Spider-Woman.
That's right, yeah.
And it seems like the editor wanted her to do that. And she says, looking back, that's probably why they gave her the job, because none of the established writers wanted to kill a character, because at the time she was so young and new in the business, she didn't realize how significant that is to people to kill a character. And she said she regrets doing it. And then later on, Michael, they brought Spider-Woman back, and she consulted on the stories. They brought her back in Avengers 240 and 241, and they consulted with her on how to bring her back. But I went back and I read issue 50 of Spider-Woman. Did you ever read any of that?
I don't think so. No, I don't think so.
Yeah, it's not very good.
Okay.
But the way they killed her, she was having a battle with Morgan Le Fay. Do you remember that lady? She's like a witch or a sorceress or whatever.
Yeah, from King Arthur, yeah.
And so she goes into an astral plane with some other guy, takes her into the astral plane, and she goes to fight. She has to go back in time to fight Morgan Le Fay. And while she's in the astral plane fighting Morgan Le Fay somehow kills her physical body. So even though she defeats Morgan Le Fay, when she tries to return to her physical body, she realizes her body is now dead and she can't go back.
Gotcha. Okay.
So that's kind of how they were able to bring her back. She was just on the astral plane, and they figured out a way to bring her back.
That's smart.
Yeah, I suppose.
Better than getting rid of a character like Spider-Woman, right?
Yes, you can't. There's been 30 Spider-Women. So.
Well, you know what's funny? I don't think I even knew this until 2 weeks ago, but did you know that Spider-Woman had her own cartoon in the 70s?
I did not know that.
Yeah. As I was looking through my Disney Plus, because I've been watching Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends and the solo Spider-Man cartoon, and I'm clicking through. I'm like, wait, Spider-Woman? Yeah. What happened was apparently some other cartoon studio created a cartoon called Web Woman, and so Marvel freaked out because they're like, oh shit, we better secure the copyright here. So they created Spider-Woman over a weekend, just like She-Hulk, put out the comic, and then turned it into a cartoon just to protect the copyright, So,
did you watch it?
No, I haven't watched it yet, but I'm going to. I heard it's not very good, but
yeah, I'm guessing it was terrible.
Yeah.
So then after she did the Spider-Woman, she wrote the 4-issue miniseries Beauty and the Beast in 1985. Now, this isn't the Disney Beauty and the Beast. This is the Beast of X-Men fame and Dazzler.
Yes.
I never read it.
Okay, I did read it.
Okay. And?
It's terrible. It's terrible. Yeah. Okay. I went on a kick a couple years ago where I'm like, I'm going to reread every Innocenti comic. Wow. Not all of them are good. Okay.
Yeah.
So.
I totally forgot that even existed, Beauty and the Beast. And then, but as soon as I read about it, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that Beast and Dazzler. Yeah. So then in 1985, 86, she wrote and created Longshot, a 6-issue limited series. Notably, the art was done by Art Adams.
Right.
Hey, did you see that tweet I sent you about Art Adams and Secret Wars 12? Did you see it?
The one page that he inked, yes.
Yeah, you can clearly tell it's Art Adams,
100%, yeah.
That's crazy. So yeah, she loved working with Art Adams. She said it was a great collaboration. They really had a fun time doing Longshot. Then she wrote Daredevil for 4.5 years.
Yeah.
It 53 issues between 236 and 291. Mm-hmm. So that spanned from 1986 to 1991. And she also would later contribute to Daredevil 500.
That's right.
I guess they brought back a bunch of writers throughout the history and they all chipped in and did something. I don't know. She left comics in 1991 to pursue journalism. And she also made some films.
That's right.
She returned to comics in 2012 with DC. She wrote Catwoman and the Katana series.
Right.
Did you read any of those?
Okay. I read one issue of Catwoman, and I don't remember. Let's put it this way. I don't really remember it, but the only good thing I'll say about it is, again, it didn't feel like a typical DC writer. So she was still writing in her old style, which might have been good and might have been bad, but I'd have to go back and read it again because I don't remember.
Yeah, I'm a fan of Anna Senti. The critics would say she's too preachy.
Yeah.
And, too wrapped up in social issues and, that kind of stuff. But she was a trailblazer, really, for women in comics. Now, there were previous women who had been writers and stuff. But here in 1988, she's writing Daredevil. I think she also wrote Punisher a little bit. She did some Punisher stuff.
Awesome, yeah.
So that's pretty crazy for that era for a female writer to be doing that stuff.
Right. The only other prominent one was Louise Simonson, right?
Yeah, and she was doing like Power Pack and New Mutants.
And X Factor.
Yeah, which still had a lot of female characters, but like Punisher and Daredevil, these are gritty male characters.
True. Good point, yeah.
Especially for that era. It's pretty impressive.
I agree.
And again, she was a longtime editor on X-Men and all, so she had a profound influence on this era of Marvel Comics, I would say.
Right.
As far as this issue goes, yeah, there's a lot of dopey dialogue, and that's pretty much the standard for these issues that we do. A lot of dopey dialogue.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. It's dopey in like a different way. Like it's, I've read, again, we've covered Roy Thomas, Marv Wolfman, Len Wein. They all have that cheesy, campy way of writing. This is awkward in a different way, right? Like we said, because it's like on the nose and it's preachy, but it's not like Len Wein cheesy. It's not like comic book cheesy. It's different kind of cheesy. I can't put my finger on it, but at least it's different,
Yeah, and I like the the structure of the story and the little, but I hate kids. I'm sorry, I just don't like kids.
That's your own prejudice. That's your own problem.
Yeah, kids are the worst. Could you imagine reading Power Pack? Holy hell!
Oh, I'm a fan of Power Pack. I'm looking forward to reading the whole run.
Just nothing but kids. Anyway,
yep.
So she does okay. The work here's fine. It's fine. Oh, it's okay.
I would say, again, based on the 80s standards, it definitely stands out. Like, I would probably rather read this than most of the other comics that were out at that time.
This isn't like, now when I went Daredevil, I want to punching people.
Yeah.
Big fight scenes. You don't get any of that here. So if you're looking for fights, and she said she hated writing fight scenes. She actually signed up for boxing lessons.
Really?
And some other, maybe kung fu or some other type of fighting, because she wanted to get to learn how to fight so it would help her write fight scenes better. But she said, it didn't really help.
Oh, okay.
So basically, she would just tell the artist, there's a fight scene, do something cool with it, and that's
interesting.
What she did. So speaking of the artist, John Romita Jr.
Yes.
Here we go. Born in New York City, 1963. Oddly enough, Michael, I don't know if you're aware of this, but John Romita Jr. is the son of John Romita Sr.
Yes, I did know that.
Yeah, weird the way that worked out.
Yep.
And of course, John Romita Sr. is iconic. Like when I think comic book art, it's I'm not a huge fan of Kirby. I know everyone loves Kirby, but I love John Romita Sr. and John Buscema. They're the two that really stand above everyone else for me in terms of comic art. I love them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for me, he's top 3. Like, for Marvel, it'd be Kirby, John Buscema, and then him.
Yeah. So
yeah, he's absolutely Mount
So
Rushmore.
John Romita is a baby boy here. At 13, John Romita Jr. actually created the Prowler character for Amazing Spider-Man 78 because his dad was drawing it.
That's right. Yeah.
And I actually own that issue. The actual
really
issue.
Wow, that's cool.
Actually own it. And that was from 1969. So he broke into the business. His dad would not help him get into like his dad said, hey, if he wanted him to be an artist, but he didn't want him to draw comic books. But he said, hey, if you want to do this, you're gonna have to do it on your own.
Really?
Because whatever you do, like everyone's going to think I did it for you. I'm the only reason you're working here. So you're going to have to do it on your own. You're going to have to find your way into the business. I'm sure he helped them out a little bit, like introduce them to people, but he didn't like pull any strings to get them jobs. You know what I'm saying?
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So he broke into comics by working for Marvel UK titles. He would do because the way that it worked out, like when American Comics went to the UK to the Marvel UK brand, they split them into 2 for some reason.
Yes.
And so that meant you needed to have another cover and another splash page.
That's right.
So that's what he was doing. He was drawing those extra covers and splash pages for the UK titles. So that's how we started.
Have you ever seen a Marvel UK comic?
I have not.
Because I own a bunch. They're different dimensions. They're more like the size, the dimensions of like a Rolling Stone magazine or like Inquirer.
Oh,
you know?
Okay.
And they're really thin. They're maybe, like we said, maybe half as thick. And there's no cover stock. It's all the pages are newsprint.
I love that.
It's really cool. And the cool thing is it wasn't exactly half. It was like odd numbered pages. And so if you were to buy like one issue of, say, Transformers, there'd be half of an American issue. But then sometimes they need to fill like 5 pages. So they would have news stories there too. So there's actually like a whole library of UK Spider-Man, UK Hulk, UK G.I. Joe that most of it's never been reprinted here. So it's kind of cool.
I have no idea. Yeah. So his first like real gig at Marvel here in the U.S. was a 6-page backup story in Amazing Spider-Man Annual number 11 in 1977. I think it's something like Panic at the Coffee Bean or something like that.
Okay.
And he says it's terrible. Says, I should go back and look at it. He first gained popularity on Iron Man from 1978 to 82. He did 27 issues.
Yes.
That was issues 115 to 156. In that span, he did 27 issues.
Right.
And he returned in 1991. He did 9 more issues of Iron Man. See, I didn't even know he did Iron Man.
Oh, yeah. I knew that, like, all growing up. He was famous for that, yeah. And they're good issues, too. I like them.
He was also doing The Amazing Spider-Man from 80 to 84. So that's cool. He worked on the same book as his dad had not worked on. He did 36 issues from issue 208 to 250. And he returned for 2 issues in 1998. And then he did runs in 2003, 4, and 2008 and 9.
That's right.
So, a lot of Spider-Man work for him. From 80 to 85, he did 32 issues of Uncanny X-Men. And this was between issues 175 and 211. Now, this is where I first saw his art.
Right.
He's the reason I got back into comic books. Like I said, I bought issue 207 of the Uncanny X-Men, Wolverine on the cover. I bought it just because of that cover.
Oh, he's cutting the cover, right?
He's dragging his claws down the front. And I fell in love with the X-Men, so that got me into comic books again hardcore. So it's all because of John Romita and that cover. But interestingly enough, Miguel, I guess Chris Claremont didn't like his work.
This is true. I was going to point that out. Yeah, Chris Claremont was not a fan, and he basically pushed to get him removed from the book, right?
It seemed like it's a little fuzzy, but it seemed like Romita wasn't enjoying his time on X-Men because his relationship with Claremont wasn't that great. And Claremont, like you said, didn't really like his work that much because, keep in mind, this is right after we had God tier John Byrne doing that greatest run of X-Men ever. Then we had my beloved Paul Smith, who was exceptional. Right. And then John Romita comes in and Claremont's like, yeah, well, this isn't as good. But I don't know. I loved his X-Men work. I should also mention he was only doing breakdowns at this point in his career. He wasn't doing finished art. Right. And would you like to describe the difference between a breakdown and finished pencils?
Well, it depends on the artist, but a breakdown can, like, the absolute simplest form of a breakdown can be kind of just like, I don't want to say stick figures, but one step up from stick figures. Like, you might just sketch in, the hands and the face and the positions of the people, and that's it. So it depends again on the artist about how detailed the breakdowns are, but it's completely unrefined, and it's mostly just getting the storytelling across, right, and the layout of the page, and then the inker, like because earlier on I was talking about like filling in the blacks with these lines. That might have been all Al Williamson. Maybe John Romita didn't do any of that, but even looking at this issue, though, you could tell that this is a John Romita figure. So he's probably going in and sketching out the outline, and maybe that's it, right?
No, not for Daredevil. I'll talk about that.
Oh, okay. So now let me just say one thing. A lot of people really crap on John Romita on X-Men, but I'm always there defending him because he was inked by Dan Green, and Dan Green is a very sketchy inker, so it might have been more him not refining those breakdowns enough.
Yeah, we really don't talk about inkers enough on the show because they're very integral to how the art looks.
That's true. Yeah.
Like go back and if you're on the internets and you can find me on the Twitter, I tweeted Mike Ellie panel or page from Secret Wars 12, Mike Zeck art, but inked by Art Adams, and it looks exactly like Art Adams drew it.
Right. Totally.
Especially the She-Hulk and Thing panel on the bottom. I would have sworn he drew it, but he just inked it. But that just shows you what a profound influence an inker can have if an artist is just doing breakdowns.
Exactly.
And that's what Zeck was doing for that issue of Secret Wars.
Right.
So, yeah, if you're not liking the art, it's not necessarily the artist. It's also the inker. And if you love the art, it's not necessarily the artist. It could be the inker. It's
totally
very tricky. Yeah.
Yep, you're right.
And I guess Steve Ditko, he was kind of infamous for doing very loose breakdowns because when he was doing the art on Spider-Man, like he was doing finished art, but then later in his career, he was just doing breakdowns. So, and since he wasn't doing it all, he just was very kind of careless with them. And some inkers hated working with him because he was so loose and they had to do so much work. But anyway. So, yeah, that was his X-Men run. And he left X-Men in 91, I said? Or,
that was the second run, right? You're talking about?
I'm so confused. Oh, from 80 to 86, he was on X-Men. So, he left X-Men right after I kind of got in there. Now, the reason why he left, like we mentioned, Claremont wasn't a fan, but he was taken off X-Men so he could do the Star Brand book for Marvel's New Universe.
That's right, with Jim Shooter.
Now, yes, the Shooterverse, the New Universe. And Jim Shooter did write Star Brand. Most of those titles are written by Archie Goodwin.
That's true, yep.
There were 8 books that premiered with the New Universe. Now, Romita, I saw interviews with him where he said he wasn't necessarily fired from X-Men, but they kind of like moved the pieces around because they wanted him to do Star Brand. So, that's a nice way of saying he was fired. But yeah,
sure.
It's fired. They wanted him over on Star Brand. Now, Michael, I want to correct something I said when we were doing Secret Wars. I don't think I said it last episode, but a couple issues back when we were talking about Secret Wars 2 for some reason, I said, well, that's how they got the New Universe. Because at the end of Secret Wars 2, the Beyonder kind of dies, but he creates a new universe.
Okay.
So he lives on. That is not true.
Okay.
He does create a new universe at the end but it's not the new universe.
Well, what is it then?
It's just a new universe somewhere else, but it's not Marvel's new universe. Okay. As an 11-year-old child, when I was reading it, because at the time they're hyping up this new universe, I'm like, oh, I just connected the dots. So the Beyonder, now that would make great sense that that would have played out perfectly, but no, that's not true at all. It's actually a separate universe. The new universe from Marvel had nothing to do with Secret Wars 2.
Interesting. Okay.
Which I think they should go back and retcon that, and it would make it a lot better.
Yeah, maybe they should. You're right.
Listen to 11-year-old me, and it would be a lot better. So when I was reading about Star Brand, are you familiar with Star Brand or the New Universe at all?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I've read a lot of it.
Oh, see, I never read any of it.
Well, you're not missing much.
Yeah. But I guess the original idea for the New Universe was to make it real gritty, to make it real like authentic to the life around you. Like
the world outside your window.
Yeah, yes, that was the tagline, the world outside your window. But then so there was going to be like no aliens, no mythos, like weird mythologies, nothing craziness, just real people, except there's an event that happens one day in 1986. There's a big white flash of light. And from that moment on, certain people in the world have superpowers.
Right.
So that's like what their take was. But as soon as they started doing the books, Michael, they kind of threw that out the window because like Starbrand got his powers from an alien.
Uh-huh.
And then some other guy was like from the future or something. So it's like they were very inconsistent with their main.
Yeah. And we'll have to do an episode about this, but I believe also what happened was a lot of the creators completely disagreed with Jim Shooter's concept, so they just ignored it.
Yeah, and then there were 8 titles originally. 4 of them were canceled after 1 year, and then all of them were canceled after 2 years.
Right.
And John Byrne went in and took over Starbrand towards the end of the run. Uh-huh. And this was after Shooter got fired, and to have a dig at Jim Shooter because he hated Jim Shooter.
Right.
He threw a big party when Shooter got fired, and they burned Shooter in effigy.
That's right.
They made a dummy of him, and they filled it with unsold New Universe copies of comic books.
Oh, boy.
They burned it. But also to get a jab at him, in Starbrand, the city of Pittsburgh was destroyed by a nuclear bomb.
I see. I knew about that, but I didn't know it was a jab at Jim Shooter.
Yeah, because Jim Shooter's hometown is Pittsburgh.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that. Okay. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, they hated Shooter apparently. Mm-hmm. So, So needless to say, when Romita went to Starbrand, it did not work out. Mm-hmm. He was not happy. He was miserable, and he said he was pretty frustrated, almost to the point where he wanted to get out of comics.
Really?
But then, Michael, the editor Ralph Macchio.
Yes.
He saw John Romita and saw how miserable he was. He says, "Hey, how about you want to draw Daredevil?" And he said, "All right." He said, "You can do finished pencils."
Okay.
Not just breakdowns. And I'll let you. What inker do you want to work with? And he said, "Give me Al Williamson." And he said, "All right." And Romita said, "Oh, okay." He didn't think he'd get Al Williamson, but he did.
Right.
And I think they actually worked a little bit on Starbrand together. So yeah, Al Williamson and Romita went together to do Daredevil, and that was really a perfect match. Those two.
Yes. Oh my God. Yes.
But when we're watching this Daredevil work here, these are Romita's finished pencils. So he's doing everything,
okay.
And then Williamson is inking it. But I love the art here.
Oh my God! If you hate John Romita Jr., you'll love this because this is like. I think people complain that his artwork is too sketchy and scratchy, but with Al Williamson inking, it's just like. Now, are you familiar with Al Williamson?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, because like I mean, I'm not an expert on him, but I believe he might have done Buck Rogers for a while. So he's kind of in the vein of Alex Raymond, who's famous for being one of the most realistic comic book artists, of the first half of the century. And Al Williamson had a career drawing kind of like that. He did Star Wars, the daily comic strip for a while, and his artwork is very realistic. And so taking that realistic inking and, putting that over top of John Romita's sort of exaggerated, bulky figures, I mean, it's just a perfect match,
Especially for a gritty street level book like Daredevil.
Right. Exactly.
It's awesome. And but Romita says he loved working on Daredevil. He says it's the highlight of his career, and he loved working with Ann Nocenti. They were like a true collaborative team.
Right.
It wasn't like his relationship with Claremont, and he loved everything about his Daredevil experience. And then shortly after this, he did the 5-issue limited series, Daredevil Man Without Fear, with Frank Miller.
Right. Which is great.
And also inked by Al Williamson. And
okay.
And that was the basis of the Netflix show, season 1.
Definitely that's where they got the costume from. Although the costume did first appear in the Hulk TV movie with Daredevil, but yeah.
Well, I guess technically.
Yeah.
But he loved working on. He went to Frank Miller and he said, "Hey, Frank, you want to do a Wolverine graphic novel with me?" And Frank said, "Everyone's doing Wolverine. I got something better for you." And so he wanted to do the first year of Daredevil. So and so they did that. And it was only supposed to be like a couple it wasn't supposed to be 6 issues. I guess that turns out to be about 144 pages. It was only supposed to be about 80 pages or something.
Okay.
But when Frank Miller, when he was doing the one issue, Frank Miller said, "Hey, hold on. I want to put a little addendum between issues 17 and 18. So hold on." So then when he sent him the script, it was like the little addendum turned out to be like an additional 2 issues.
Really?
So
hilarious.
So swelled to 6.
Yeah.
But he loved working with Frank Miller, and he loved working with Innocenti, and he loved Daredevil. So there you go. So after all that, he also did some Punisher Warzone, the first 8 issues of that in 1992.
Great. Yeah.
It did Peter Parker Spider-Man from 95 to 98. He did that was 28 issues, 57 to 98. And Michael, Peter Parker Spider-Man, this isn't Peter Parker the Spectacular Spider-Man. This is the Todd McFarlane book.
Right. They changed the title.
I never knew that.
Yeah.
So they changed it to Peter Parker Spider-Man.
And his art on that, I believe, was inked by Scott Hanna. It is incredible. It could even be better than this. Yeah.
Okay. He did 12 issues of Wolverine in 2004, 2005. And in 2008, he created Kick-Ass with Mark Millar.
Right. Yep.
And then in 2014-15, he did 13 issues of Superman.
Yep, I got those. They're great.
So, John Romita Jr. When I think of him, this Daredevil, this might be his best work. I don't know. I think it's very
arguably yes. It's right up there. And here's the thing: is John Romita Jr. is one of the few artists who I will pretty much buy anything he does. Like if his name's on it, I'll read it. So like one thing you forgot, he actually did the 2-issue Cable miniseries.
No, I didn't notice that because I hate Cable. And
okay. But yeah, like Cable's first ever series was drawn by John Romita right when Rob Liefeld was kind of on getting ousted from Marvel because he had already started Image.
Okay.
So yeah, but yeah, it was a really good. It was written by Fabian Nicieza and art by John Romita Jr. It was great.
Yeah, but again, without John Romita Jr., I'm never into comic books again, and I love this whole Daredevil run. So he had a prominent role in my childhood. It was John Romita Jr.
So would you give Cable a chance if it was drawn by John Romita Jr.?
No.
Oh, really?
Because I hate that whole thing. I hate X-Men just got so convoluted and so weird. I hate people coming out of the future and coming back. I just like simple storytelling about, being ostracized from society. Right. That's what I like.
I hear you.
So, yeah. Don't like any of that. All right, Michael. So there it is, Daredevil 253 from 1988, and Innocenti, John Romita Jr. Any final thoughts?
No, only that, it's just as good as I remember, and I am reminded why I reread it every Christmas. It's great.
1 out of 10, what are you giving it?
I would give it, I think, a typical issue, I would give a 7. This one I'll give an 8 because it's got the added special message that Daredevil gives to 8-Ball.
Yeah. Like I said, I hate kids. There's no real fighting in this issue, and I like fights. So it's not a typical Daredevil issue, and there is a lot of hokey dialogue. And how much someone admires the 8-Ball Darla stuff, that'll vary.
Okay.
Some people might think it's too stupid and hokey, and some will cry like a child, like Michael. But I love the art.
Yeah.
I think this is peak Romita, so I'll give it a 7.
Nice.
I was initially going to give it a 5, but I'm like, no, I really do love this art. So yeah.
Yeah. And it's Innocenti, come on. Yeah. Okay, so that was our Marvel Christmas issue. And since I get to pick 2 in a row, next week will be our DC Christmas themed issue. You ready for this? Christmas with the Superheroes, number 2 from 1988. Okay?
So wait, that's an actual title of a comic book, Christmas with the Superheroes?
Of course it is. Christmas with the Superheroes. So this is an anthology comic featuring many different Christmas-themed stories with many different DC superheroes, and they're all awesome, okay?
Well, this is an interesting concept. So how many times, this is number 2, so how many years did they do this?
2 years. But I've got both issues. The funny thing is number 1 is all reprint, and then number 2 is all new stories. I'm not sure why they did it that way, but other than the terrible cover, this is an awesome issue. But anyway,
so how long are these stories? Like 5-6 pages each? Or?
Yeah, most of them. None of them are full length. So.
And are we talking like the Justice League people?
Yeah, Superman, Batman. There's a few. I can't spoil it, but yeah, Aquaman's in there.
Any really obscure superheroes?
Maybe yes. I would say there's one character in there that you might have never heard of for sure.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Man, so Aquaman celebrates Christmas underwater?
Absolutely. But trust me, it's a good one. This is another one that I read every Christmas.
This sounds like something that would be from 1968 or like, not 1988. You know what I mean?
Well, this was I think it's because the editor was he was like he was a Silver Age guy, so he liked these throwback themed comics, Yeah,
so. It definitely seems Silver Age. No doubt. All right, so we got another Christmas, and then finally I'll be back to pick an issue. Because I really haven't picked one in a while because we had the guests, and then.
Well, I guess you didn't pick those issues.
No, I didn't pick those.
Oh, look at that. Okay.
Well, so I'll
see what you
I'll
pick.
come up with something good.
All right.
Thanks.
Oh, and just for the record, the invitation is still out there for Cousin Brandon to come back because in a very near episode, we're going to be doing Crisis, just so you know. So that's coming soon.
Well, he did send me an email yesterday where he listened to the show, and he said, "Holy hell, was I drunk?"
Yes, he was. Yes, he was.
But he does want to come back on the show, so I'll have to let him know.
Good time. All right. So that wraps up this week's episode. I guess until next Tuesday, this has been Flea Market Fantasy. See you next time.